My name is Elena Vasquez, and for the past decade, I've been living a double life. Not the kind you see in spy thrillers, nothing as glamorous as that. No, mine is a quiet deception, born out of necessity and a deep-seated desire to protect what little authenticity remains in my family. To the world, or at least to my extended relatives, I'm the failed inventor, the quirky cousin who tinkers in her garage with gadgets that never quite make it to market. They pity me, or worse, they ignore me. But in reality, I'm the founder and former CEO of Quantum Leap Tech, a startup that revolutionized quantum computing algorithms. I sold it 3 years ago for $250 million. After taxes and investments, I'm sitting on a net worth that could buy small islands. Yet, I drive a 15-year-old Honda Civic, live in a modest 2-bedroom bungalow in Brampton, Ontario, and shop at thrift stores. Why? Because money changes people, and I've seen it firsthand. It started when I was a kid. My family immigrated from Mexico to Canada in the 1980s, settling in Toronto's suburbs. We were working class. Dad was a mechanic, Mom cleaned houses. We scraped by, but there was love. Real, unpretentious love. Family gatherings were potlucks in backyards, laughter over shared stories, not status symbols. Then, Uncle Roberto hit it big with a real estate flip in the early 2000s. Suddenly, he had a mansion in Vaughan, luxury cars, and a wife who dripped in diamonds. The family dynamic shifted. Gatherings became competitions. Who had the bigger house, the fancier vacation, the more successful kids? Roberto's side looked down on us poor relations. It poisoned everything. When I started my company in my early 20s, bootstrapping it from a dorm room at the University of Toronto, I vowed not to let money define me. I built Quantum Leap in secret, using a pseudonym for press releases. Even after the sale, I funneled profits into anonymous donations, to charities, sure, but also to my family. I'd quietly paid off cousins' student loans, covered medical bills for aunts, even funded a niece's wedding without anyone knowing. It was my way of giving back without the strings. But secrets have a way of bubbling up, especially when arrogance forces your hand. That's what happened with the family reunion. It was early summer 2025 when the invitation arrived. Not a casual email or text. No, this was a gilded envelope, embossed with gold foil, delivered by courier to my doorstep in Brampton. I slid it open with a kitchen knife, sipping my morning coffee from a chipped mug. "The Vasquez family grand reunion," it proclaimed in swirling script. Hosted by Isabella Vasquez and her fiancé, Reginald Harrington III, at the Harrington Estate, Muskoka Lakes. Muskoka! That's cottage country for the elite. Lakeside mansions, private docks, the works. Isabella was my cousin, Roberto's daughter. We'd grown up together, but after her family struck gold, she morphed into a socialite. Reginald was new money, heir to a pharmaceutical empire. I'd heard whispers. He was flashy, judgmental, the type who name-dropped celebrities at brunch. The invitation included a note. "Dear Elena, we're thrilled to celebrate our family's legacy. Dress to impress, black tie optional. Can't wait to catch up on your inventions?" The ellipsis stung, a subtle dig at my supposed failures. I hadn't seen most of the family in years, not since Aunt Maria's funeral. Back then, they'd clucked sympathetically about my struggles. "Poor Elena, still chasing dreams in that garage," they'd say. Little did they know, my garage tinkering had led to patents worth billions. I stared at the invitation, a mix of amusement and irritation bubbling up. Why now? A quick Google search, old habits from my startup days, revealed the answer. Reginald had just announced his engagement to Isabella in a splashy Toronto Life article. The reunion was their way of flaunting it, merging families under the Harrington banner. But reading between the lines, it was clear. This was a showcase for the successful Vasquezes, with us lesser folk as backdrop. I decided to go. Not as Elena the CEO, but as Elena the failure. I'd play the part to the hilt, worn clothes, wide-eyed awe at their opulence. I wanted to see how they'd treat me, unfiltered. If they showed kindness, great. If not, well, revelations have a way of evening the score. The drive to Muskoka took 4 hours from Brampton. I left early on a Saturday morning in July, the Honda's AC sputtering against the humid Ontario heat. I dressed the part, an outdated floral dress from Value Village, scuffed flats, and a frayed straw hat. No makeup, just my natural curls tied back messily. In my tote bag, also thrift store find, I packed a few inventions. A clunky prototype robot arm I'd built in college, non-functional now, and some sketches on yellowed paper. Props to sell the image. As I wound through the pine-lined roads, flashbacks hit me. Building my first circuit board at 12, using scavenged parts from Dad's shop. The all-nighters in university, coding algorithms that would later power Quantum Leap. The day I pitched to venture capitalists, heart-pounding, sealing a $50 million Series A. And the sale, negotiating with tech giants, walking away with life-changing wealth. I'd invested wisely, index funds, real estate under LLCs, even a silent stake in emerging AI firms. My bungalow was paid off, but it looked humble from the outside. Anonymity was my armor. The Harrington estate loomed like a fairy tale castle, a sprawling log mansion on Lake Rousseau, with manicured lawns, a helipad, and a dock lined with yachts. Valets in crisp uniforms parked luxury cars, BMWs, Mercedes, a Tesla or two. My Honda stood out like a sore thumb. A valet eyed it skeptically as I handed over the keys. "Ma'am, is this yours?" I smiled sheepishly. "Yes, she's old but reliable, like me." He nodded politely, but I caught the smirk. Inside, the foyer was grand. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, walls adorned with abstract art. Family milled about 50 Vasquezes and Harringtons, sipping champagne from flutes. Isabella spotted me first, gliding over in a designer gown that probably cost more than my car. "Elena, you made it!" She air-kissed my cheeks, her perfume overwhelming. "Love the vintage look. So authentic." "Thanks," I said, feigning nervousness. "This place is amazing. Is it yours?" She laughed, a tinkling sound. "Reginald's family retreat. We're just borrowing it for the weekend. Come, meet everyone." She led me to the great room where clusters chatted. Uncle Roberto, paunchy in a tailored suit, clapped me on the back. "Elena, mi prima. Still inventing? Heard about that robot thing. Did it ever sell?" I shook my head, eyes downcast. "Not yet. Market's tough for independence." "Pity," he said, not sounding sorry. "Well, keep at it. Persistence pays off, like it did for me." Aunt Sophia, his wife, chimed in. "Yes, Roberto's latest deal? A condo tower in downtown Toronto? Millions in profit." Her diamonds sparkled as she gestured. I nodded admiringly. "Wow, that's incredible." Reginald approached, tall and polished in a bespoke tux, looking like he'd stepped from a GQ spread. Isabella introduced us. "Reg, this is my cousin Elena, the inventor." He extended a hand, grip firm but brief. "Charmed. Inventor, eh? What do you tinker with? Gadgets for the home?" "Something like that," I mumbled. "Robotics. AI stuff. Nothing big." His eyebrow arched. "AI. Fascinating. We're investing in pharma AI at Harrington Corp. Billions in R&D. You should send me your pitch. Maybe we can throw you a bone." Isabella giggled. Reg is so generous. I forced a grateful smile. That'd be amazing. I could use the help. As the afternoon unfolded, the slights piled up. At the buffet lunch, caviar, lobster, artisanal cheeses, I filled my plate modestly. Cousin Marco, Isabella's brother, sidled up. Elena, you look comfortable? No date? Still single after that breakup? I shrugged. Yeah, focusing on work. He snorted. Work? That garage hobby? Come on, Prima, life's short. Get a real job, like me. I'm VP at Dad's firm now. Others joined, sharing success stories. Niece Lucia boasted about her European backpacking trip, funded by family investments, my anonymous wire transfer, actually. Uncle Carlos lamented the economy, glancing at me. Tough for small-timers like you, Elena. I played along, wide-eyed and deferential. You're all so inspiring. How do you do it? Inside, I observed. The Harringtons were worse. Reginald's mother, Vivian, in pearls and a fur stole, in July, eyed my dress. Darling, that frock is quaint. Thrift shop? Value Village, I admitted. She clucked. How resourceful. We donate there. Perhaps you have one of our cast-offs. Laughter rippled. Reginald pulled Isabella aside, whispering loud enough for me to hear. Your cousin's sweet, but a bit out of place. Hope she doesn't embarrass us at dinner. I bit my tongue, pulling out my robot prop during mingling. Want to see my latest invention? A few humored me, but most wandered off. Vivian patted my arm. Keep dreaming, dear. Not everyone makes it. By evening, the black tie dinner was in full swing. Tables groaned under silverware, crystal, and floral arrangements. A string quartet played. I sat at the family table, periphery, of course, with the lesser relatives. Reginald toasted, "To the Vasquez-Harrington Union. May our legacies merge like fine wine." Applause. Isabella beamed. Then the speeches began. Uncle Roberto praised Reginald's visionary leadership. Vivian extolled Isabella's poise. Marco joked about upgrading the family tree. When it was my turn, thrust upon me, I stood awkwardly. Hi. I'm Elena. Happy for Isabella and Reg. Family's everything, right? Even us inventors. Sparse claps. Reginald leaned in later. Elena, about that pitch, send it, but no promises. We back winners. That was the tipping point. As dessert arrived, gold leaf truffles, I excused myself, stepping outside to the dock. The lake lapped peacefully under stars. I pulled out my phone, texting my assistant, confirm ownership transfer. You see, I'd done my homework. The Harrington estate, leased, not owned. Reginald's family was in debt. Pharma scandals had tanked their stock. The estate was up for sale discreetly. I'd bought it that morning through a shell company for $15 million cash. Closing was instant. Back inside, Reginald was mid-toast. And to those who've achieved greatness. I raised my glass. Here, but let's toast the unsung heroes too. He smiled indulgently. Of course, Elena, like your efforts. I set down my glass. Actually, Reg, I have an announcement. The room quieted. Isabella frowned. Elena? I straightened, shedding the timid posture. My voice steadied, executive mode kicking in. For years, you've seen me as the failed inventor. The poor cousin scraping by. But that's not me. I founded Quantum Leap Tech. Sold it for $250 million. I'm worth more than this entire estate. Gasps. Uncle Roberto choked on his wine. What? I continued. I've been funding you all anonymously. Lucia's trip, my money, Marco's promotion bonus, me. Aunt Maria's treatments, covered. Vivian paled. Impossible. I pulled up my banking app, projecting it via the room's smart screen. I'd hacked in earlier, old tech tricks. Transfers listed. Anonymous wires to family accounts. Reginald stammered. "This is a joke." "No," I said calmly. "And speaking of estates, I own this one now. Bought it today." The room erupted. Isabella burst into tears. "Why pretend?" "Because I wanted to see your true colors. And I did. Pity, mockery, exclusion. Money doesn't buy character." Marco flushed. "You tricked us." "You tricked yourselves," I countered, "treating me like less because I seemed poor." Uncle Roberto approached, apologetic. "Elena, we didn't know." "That's the point," I said. "Kindness shouldn't depend on knowing." Vivian huffed. "Well, if you're so rich, why dress like that?" "Because I don't need to prove anything. True success is quiet." Reginald desperate. "We can partner. Your tech, our pharma." I shook my head. "No, but you can stay the night as my guests." I left them stunned, driving back to Brampton. Calls flooded in. "Apologies, please." I ignored most but texted Isabella. "Learn from this. Family isn't a hierarchy." Months later, the family splintered then mended, slowly. Some cut ties, others reached out genuinely. Marco started his own venture, humbly. Lucia volunteered at shelters. Reginald and Isabella's wedding? Scaled down, real. Me? I stayed in my bungalow, inventing for fun. Wealth is a tool, not a trophy. And that reunion? It taught them, and reminded me, what really matters. What mattered, I learned in the weeks that followed, wasn't the revelation itself, but the silence after. The kind of silence that settles when people don't know how to face you anymore. For a while, my phone barely stopped vibrating. Messages came in waves, apologies typed and deleted, voice notes sent at 2 a.m., missed calls from numbers I hadn't saved in years. Some were sincere, some were panicked. A few were transactional. Uncle Roberto called first, 3 days after the reunion. "Elena," he began, voice uncharacteristically soft. "We need to talk." I was in my garage, soldering iron in hand, half-assembled circuit board glowing faintly under the lamp. The smell of flux always grounded me. It reminded me of who I was before money, before secrets. "I'm listening," I said. There was a pause. "You humiliated us." I smiled faintly. "No, Roberto," I held up a mirror. He sighed. "You didn't have to do it that way." "I didn't have to do it any way at all," I replied. "But you didn't have to treat me like I was invisible for 20 years either." Another pause, then quieter. "Your father would have been proud." That one landed hard. We talked for another 10 minutes about nothing and everything. He didn't ask for money. That alone told me more than his apology ever could. Others weren't so subtle. Marco emailed me a pitch deck. Subject line, potential collaboration opportunity. I didn't open it. Lucia, though. Lucia surprised me. She showed up at my door one Saturday afternoon, rain soaking through her denim jacket, eyes red but determined. "I didn't know," she said, standing on my porch like a kid who'd broken a window. "About the money, about the trips, about you." "I know," I said, stepping aside to let her in. She looked around my bungalow, really looked this time. The chipped mug on the counter, the worn couch, the shelves filled with books instead of trophies. "I thought success looked different," she admitted. "I thought it was loud." I handed her a towel. "Most people do." She stayed for hours. We talked about her volunteering, about the guilt she felt, about how strange it was to realize her life had been quietly funded by someone she'd barely respected. "I don't want your money anymore," she said finally. "I want to earn things." I nodded. "Then you're already richer than most." That night, after she left, I sat alone in the garage, and wondered when exactly I'd stopped expecting people to surprise me in good ways, and why Lucia's honesty felt like a gift. Isabella didn't reach out for a long time. When she finally did, it wasn't with words. It was with a single photo. Her wedding dress, simple. No diamonds, no cathedral-length veil, just ivory silk and clean lines. Under it, a message. I think I finally understand. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Understanding is a beginning, not a conclusion. She replied with a heart emoji. Nothing else. For once, it was enough. Reginald, on the other hand, unraveled publicly. The Harrington name had been fraying for years. I'd known that long before the reunion. But pride has a way of accelerating collapse. Within 2 months, investigative journalists connected the dots between the pharma scandals, the shell companies, and the inflated valuations. Stock plummeted. Lawsuits surfaced, sponsors vanished, and then came the article. From heir to liability, the fall of Reginald Harrington III. I didn't read it. I didn't need to. He showed up at my door instead. No suit, no arrogance, just a man who looked like gravity had finally introduced itself. I was wrong, he said. I crossed my arms. That's a statement, not an apology. He swallowed. I'm sorry. I studied him, not as an enemy, not as a symbol, but as a human stripped of performance. I don't need your forgiveness, he added quickly. I just needed to say it. I nodded once. Say it to Isabella too, and mean it. He hesitated. She won't take my calls. Good, I said. She's learning boundaries. He left after that. No drama, no pleading. I locked the door and went back to my workbench. 3 months after the reunion, I dissolved the last shell company that tied my anonymous donations together. Not out of spite, but out of clarity. Anonymity had protected me once. Now, it was holding me back. So I did something radical. I became visible, but on my own terms. I didn't announce my wealth. I didn't give interviews about the reunion. I didn't expose anyone further. Instead, I launched a foundation. The Vasquez Quiet Grant. No press releases, no galas, no donor walls. Just funding for people with ideas who didn't have connections. Single parents with prototypes, students with patents, and no capital. Immigrants with brilliance and accents people underestimated. Applications were anonymous. So were approvals. I recognized myself in almost every submission. One afternoon, while reviewing proposals at my kitchen table, I came across a name I hadn't expected. Marco Vasquez. I nearly skipped it, but curiosity won. His proposal wasn't flashy. No inflated projections, no borrowed buzzwords, just a simple manufacturing idea, sustainable packaging, locally sourced materials, fair wages. At the end, a note. I don't expect this to be approved. I just needed to try without shortcuts. I stared at the screen. Then I approved it. Not because he was family, because he finally wasn't asking like one. Winter came early that year. Brampton blanketed itself in snow, the kind that muffles sound and forces reflection. I found myself walking more, thinking less. One evening, as I shoveled my driveway, my neighbor, Mrs. Carr, waved from across the street. "You're the one from the news, right?" she called. I froze. "What news?" I asked cautiously. She laughed. "The grant thing. My niece applied. She didn't get it, but she said the feedback was kind. That mattered." I smiled. "Tell her to apply again." She nodded. "You're good people, Elena." That compliment meant more to me than any headline ever could. The family reunion became a story people told, but it lost its sharp edges over time. It turned into a lesson instead of a wound. At Christmas, a smaller gathering happened. No estate, no champagne towers, just potluck dishes and folding chairs in Aunt Sophia's modest living room. I brought empanadas, No one commented on my clothes. No one asked about my money. We talked about recipes, about weather, about Lucia's volunteer work, about Marco's startup struggles. At one point, Uncle Roberto raised a glass. "To Elena," he said simply, "for reminding us who we were before we forgot." I didn't correct him, because the truth was, we were all still remembering. Later that night, back home, I sat in my garage again. Same bench, same tools, same unfinished dreams. Only this time, I felt lighter. The double life was over, not because everyone knew my net worth, but because I no longer needed to hide my worth as a person. One afternoon, while reviewing proposals at my kitchen table, I came across a name I hadn't expected. Marco Vasquez. I nearly skipped it, but curiosity won. His proposal wasn't flashy. No inflated projections, no borrowed buzzwords, just a simple manufacturing idea, sustainable packaging, locally sourced materials, fair wages. At the end, a note. "I don't expect this to be approved. I just needed to try without shortcuts." I stared at the screen. Then I approved it. Not because he was family, because he finally wasn't asking like one. Winter came early that year. Brampton blanketed itself in snow, the kind that muffles sound and forces reflection. I found myself walking more, thinking less. One evening, as I shoveled my driveway, my neighbor Mrs. Carr waved from across the street. "You're the one from the news, right?" she called. I froze. "What news?" I asked cautiously. She laughed. "The grant thing. My niece applied. She didn't get it, but she said the feedback was kind. That mattered." I smiled. "Tell her to apply again." She nodded. "You're good people, Elena." That compliment meant more to me than any headline ever could. The family reunion became a story people told, but it lost its sharp edges over time. It turned into a lesson instead of a wound. At Christmas, a smaller gathering happened. No estate, no champagne towers, just potluck dishes and folding chairs in Aunt Sophia's modest living room. I brought empanadas. No one commented on my clothes. No one asked about my money. We talked about recipes, about weather, about Lucia's volunteer work, about Marco's startup struggles. At one point, Uncle Roberto raised a glass. "To Elena," he said simply, "for reminding us who we were before we forgot." I didn't correct him, because the truth was, we were all still remembering. Later that night, back home, I sat in my garage again. Same bench, same tools, same unfinished dreams. Only this time, I felt lighter. The double life was over, not because everyone knew my net worth, but because I no longer needed to hide my worth as a person. I powered on a new prototype, watching the LED blink to life. Creation, curiosity, quiet joy. Those were my real currencies. And for the first time in a long while, I knew, without doubt, that I was exactly where I was meant to be. The prototype finished its startup cycle with a soft chime, a sound so modest it would have been lost in any other setting. In my garage, though, it felt ceremonial. I leaned back on the stool, wiping my hands on a rag streaked with grease and graphite, and let the moment linger. The reunion had ended weeks ago, but its ripples kept moving, through my family, through old friendships, and through corners of my life I hadn't realized were still tender. The first call came from Uncle Roberto. I let it ring, then another, and another. When I finally answered, his voice had lost its usual swagger. "Elena, mi hija, I owe you an apology." I stayed quiet. "We were blind," he continued. "No, worse, we chose not to see. I treated you like a failure because it made me feel bigger. I'm ashamed." Shame is a tricky thing. Sometimes it's sincere, sometimes it's just discomfort dressed up as regret. I listened, not to his words, but to what sat beneath them. I'm not looking for forgiveness," he added quickly. "I just wanted you to know. I was wrong." That was new. Uncle Roberto never admitted wrongness, not even when facts cornered him. "Thank you," I said finally. "That matters." We hung up without promises, without plans. It felt right that way. Others weren't so measured. Marco showed up at my bungalow unannounced one afternoon, sunglasses pushed into his hair, ego visibly bruised. "I quit," he blurted the moment I opened the door. I raised an eyebrow. "Hello to you too." "Dad's firm," he said. "I quit. Everyone looks at me like I'm a charity case now, like I didn't earn anything." I stepped aside, letting him in. We sat at my small kitchen table, the same one I'd eaten ramen at during university, the same one I still use now. "What do you want, Marco?" I asked gently. He hesitated. "I want to build something that's mine, not because of you, not because of Dad, just mine." That at least was honest. I didn't give him money. I didn't offer connections. I did give him something else, a list of books, a few hard truths, and one piece of advice that had carried me farther than any check ever could. "Be willing to look stupid longer than everyone else," I said. "That's the price of learning." He nodded, eyes damp, pride finally quiet. Lucia's change was quieter still. I noticed it through a handwritten letter, actual paper, actual ink, thanking me for showing her that generosity doesn't need witnesses. She didn't mention money. She didn't mention the reunion. She just wrote about the people she'd met at the shelter, the stories that stayed with her, the way her world felt larger and smaller at the same time. That letter stayed on my fridge for months. Isabella took longer. When she finally reached out, it wasn't with words. It was with a photo. A small wedding. No ice sculptures. No celebrity planner. Just family, soft lights, and a lake at sunset. "We're trying again," her message read, not at being impressive, at being real. I replied with a single heart. Meanwhile, the outside world kept knocking. Somehow, inevitably, my identity leaked. A journalist pieced it together. Then another. Then a dozen more. "Reclusive tech founder revealed," the headline said. "The billionaire who lived like a nobody." They wanted interviews, documentaries, a memoir deal with an advance that made my eyes water. I said no to almost all of it. Almost. I agreed to speak once, at a small engineering conference in Waterloo. No cameras, no press. Just students, soldering irons, and curiosity humming in the air. I didn't talk about money. I talked about failure, about sleeping on lab floors, about the humiliation of bad demos and worse pitches, about choosing integrity when shortcuts tempted me daily. At the end, a young woman approached me, clutching a notebook. "I'm scared I'll never be good enough," she said. I smiled. "Good enough for who?" She blinked. "That question," I added, "will decide everything." Life settled into a new rhythm after that. Mornings in the garage, afternoons walking the neighborhood, evenings reading or sketching ideas that might never become anything and didn't need to. One autumn evening, as maple leaves scattered across the driveway, I realized something unexpected. I didn't feel invisible anymore. Not because people recognized me, but because I'd stopped hiding from myself. I had spent years pretending to be smaller so others wouldn't feel threatened. But humility, I finally understood, wasn't about shrinking. It was about being grounded enough to stand fully without needing to loom. The world would always chase spectacle. I chose substance. And in that quiet choice, in circuits that hummed softly, in relationships rebuilt slowly, in a life lived deliberately, I found something better than validation. I found home. And that, I realized, was the only success that never needed an audience. And if stories about humility, truth, and quiet strength matter to you, consider subscribing for more.